The painted ceramic sunflower on the Miller's mailbox was the first casualty. Emma Miller found it shattered on the sidewalk as she rolled her daughter Lily's wheelchair up the gently sloping driveway of their new home. Lily, 12 years old with cerebral palsy, glanced up at her mother with wide, questioning eyes. "It's okay, sweetheart," Emma said, trying to convince herself as much as her daughter. Probably just neighborhood kids playing baseball. But Emma knew better. The sunflower had been carefully dismantled, not accidentally broken. It was the third incident since they'd moved into Sycamore Heights 2 weeks ago. First, the anonymous note about maintaining neighborhood aesthetics regarding the temporary wheelchair ramp they'd installed. Then the HOA violation warning about their garden gnomes exceeding the permitted lawn ornament height by half an inch. And now this. "That's exactly why we need strict regulations," came a voice from behind them, "to prevent unsightly additions to properties." Emma turned to find Patricia Henderson, the self-appointed queen of the Sycamore Heights Homeowners Association, standing on the sidewalk with her arms crossed. Her platinum blonde bob caught the afternoon sunlight as she tilted her head, surveying Emma and Lily with undisguised disapproval. "The sunflower was within regulations," Emma replied, keeping her voice steady, "and the ramp is temporary until the contractor finishes the permanent one next week." Patricia's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Well, some of us have lived here for 20 years and prefer things a certain way. Change is difficult for established communities." Lily shrank back in her wheelchair, a reaction Emma had seen too many times when strangers made her daughter feel unwelcome. That familiar protective rage rose in Emma's chest, but Thomas, her husband, had urged her to try diplomacy first. They'd sunk their life savings into this house, the only one-story property available in the school district with the specialized education program Lily needed. "Patricia, we're just trying to make a home here," Emma said, swallowing her anger. "Like everyone else, a home should fit the neighborhood," Patricia replied, her gaze lingering on Lily's wheelchair. "Some places simply aren't designed for special circumstances." Before Emma could respond, Thomas pulled into the driveway behind them, his car loaded with groceries. He sensed the tension immediately and hurried over, placing a hand on Emma's shoulder. "Good afternoon," he said to Patricia with forced cheerfulness. "Is there something we can help you with?" Patricia's demeanor shifted instantly. "Thomas, just the person I wanted to see. The HOA meeting is tonight at 7. We'll be discussing the community playground renovations. We'd love your input as an architect." Thomas had mentioned his profession exactly once at their first awkward neighborhood barbecue. Emma wasn't surprised Patricia had filed that information away. She seemed to collect useful details about everyone. "I'll try to make it," Thomas said noncommittally. Patricia leaned in, lowering her voice as if sharing a confidence. "Between us, I think you'd be perfect for the board. We need forward-thinking people." Her eyes darted to Lily, then back to Thomas. "People who understand proper planning and aesthetics." The implication was clear. Thomas was welcome, his disabled daughter was not. After Patricia left, Emma helped Lily inside while Thomas unloaded groceries. Their dream home suddenly felt less welcoming than it had that morning. "She doesn't like me," Lily said quietly as Emma helped her transfer to the living room sofa. "She doesn't know you," Emma replied, brushing Lily's dark curls from her forehead. "And it's her loss." What Emma didn't say was how Patricia's behavior had triggered every instinct to flee, to protect her daughter from a world that too often saw her as an inconvenience. But they couldn't run, not again. This neighborhood had everything Lily needed to thrive. The school, the nearby therapy center, sidewalks that were actually navigable by wheelchair. They would stand their ground. Emma just didn't realize yet how dangerous that ground would become, or how far Patricia Henderson would go to remove what she considered a blemish on her perfect neighborhood. Thomas Miller sat uneasily at the edge of the folding chair in the community center as Patricia Henderson detailed the playground renovation plans with missionary zeal. The HOA meeting had been underway for 40 minutes, and he already counted 7 sideways glances from other board members, a mixture of curiosity and judgment that he recognized all too well as the father of a disabled child. And finally, Patricia said, clicking to the last slide of her presentation, "We need to address the elephant in the room, accessibility." Thomas straightened in his chair. Perhaps he had misjudged her. "While I understand the sentiment behind making public spaces accessible to all," Patricia continued, her voice dripping with rehearsed sympathy, "the reality is that extensive accessibility modifications would consume nearly 30% of our budget for a feature that would benefit only one resident." The air left Thomas's lungs in a quiet whoosh. So much for misjudging her. "That's not accurate," Thomas said, finding his voice. "Accessible design benefits everyone. Elderly residents, parents with strollers, delivery workers. And it's not just for Lily, it's the law." Patricia's smile tightened. "We're well aware of the minimum legal requirements, Thomas. We simply feel that the character of Sycamore Heights would be better preserved with a more traditional playground design." She emphasized the word traditional as if it were a virtue in itself. After the meeting, Thomas was surrounded by 3 board members who suddenly seemed very interested in his architectural expertise, so long as it didn't involve making space for his daughter. At home, Emma was waiting up despite the late hour, her laptop open to a neighborhood social media page. "How bad was it?" she asked. "Pretty much as expected," Thomas replied, loosening his tie. "Patricia has the board wrapped around her finger, but a few people seemed receptive when I brought up accessibility. Not everyone's against us." Emma turned her laptop toward him. "Look at this." The neighborhood page showed a poll. Should HOA funds be used for specialized equipment that only serves specific residents? The responses were overwhelmingly negative, peppered with comments about fiscal responsibility and maintaining property values. "She's turning the neighborhood against us," Emma whispered. And some of these comments, "Thomas, I'm worried about Lily." Thomas placed a hand on Emma's shoulder. "We'll figure this out, I promise." The next morning, Lily was excited about her first day at Westbrook Middle School. Emma had spent weeks coordinating with the special education department to ensure everything was in place. As they approached the bus stop, Emma noticed a cluster of neighbors watching them, whispering behind their hands. The specialized transport bus was late. Emma called the school and learned it had been rerouted. Apparently, someone had called to say Lily wouldn't be needing transportation services anymore. After a frustrating hour of calls, Emma drove Lily to school herself, making them both late. When Emma returned home, she found Patricia and 2 men in suits standing on her porch. "Emma, perfect timing," Patricia said brightly. "These gentlemen are from the county zoning department. They've received complaints about unauthorized structural modifications to your property." One of the men stepped forward. "Ma'am, we've had reports of a ramp installation that doesn't meet code requirements and may violate historic district guidelines." Emma's fury rose like bile in her throat. "The ramp is temporary. The permanent installation has all necessary permits, which you'd know if you checked your records." "Yes, well," the inspector said, clearly uncomfortable, "we still need to conduct an inspection." "Who filed the complaint?" Emma demanded, though she already knew. Patricia's expression was placid, almost satisfied. "Anonymous concerns from multiple residents, I believe." That afternoon, Emma received a text from Lily's teacher. Someone claiming to be Lily's mother had called the school requesting she be removed from the specialized program and placed in standard classes without accommodation. The school had verified the caller wasn't Emma, but the incident left both Emma and the school administration shaken. When Thomas arrived home that evening, his face was grim. The architecture firm's biggest client had mysteriously pulled their contract, a client who happened to be friends with Patricia's husband. "This isn't coincidence," Thomas said, his voice low so Lily wouldn't overhear from the next room. "She's systematically attacking everything we need to live here." Emma showed him a certified letter that had arrived that afternoon. The HOA was fining them $100 per day for the temporary ramp, retroactive to their move-in date 2 weeks earlier. "How can she do this?" Emma whispered. "It's discrimination. It's illegal." "I just don't understand why they'd schedule an emergency evaluation," Emma said, clutching her phone tightly as she paced their living room. The call from Lily's school had been cryptic, something about concerns raised and reassessing appropriate placement. Thomas frowned, glancing at the calendar. "And they want this done tomorrow? That's not the normal protocol." "No, it's not," Emma agreed, a knot forming in her stomach. "I called Dr. Matsuda, and she confirmed she never authorized this. Someone else requested it using her name." 3 weeks had passed since the confrontation with the zoning inspectors. Life had settled into an uneasy routine of small aggressions, anonymous complaint letters, HOA violation notices appearing daily, and somehow, every service provider they hired mysteriously canceling after booking. The permanent wheelchair ramp installation had been delayed 4 times, each contractor citing scheduling conflicts with apologetic texts. Thomas had begun documenting everything in a detailed log, photographing each notice, recording every interaction. Emma had installed security cameras after finding their mailbox tampered with twice. They were living under siege, but at least they were prepared. Or so they thought. "Mr. and Mrs. Miller?" The social worker's voice was professionally neutral as she sat across from them in the school conference room the next afternoon. "I'm Diane Winters from Child Protective Services. Thank you for coming in today." Emma felt the floor tilt beneath her. "Child Protective Services? We were told this was an educational assessment." Diane consulted her tablet. "We received multiple reports expressing concern about Lily's home environment, specifically regarding accessibility, medical care, and educational neglect. It's standard procedure to investigate." "Reports from whom?" Thomas demanded. "I'm not at liberty to say," Diane replied. "But we take all concerns seriously, especially those involving children with special needs." As the questioning continued, Emma realized with increasing horror how carefully crafted the complaints had been. Every difficulty they'd encountered since moving to Sycamore Heights, the transportation issues, the ramp delays, and medical appointments that somehow got rescheduled without their knowledge, had been documented and presented as parental neglect. These are all situations created by Patricia Henderson, Emma said, her voice shaking. She's been systematically harassing us. Diane made a note. Mrs. Henderson is actually one of the community references we've been asked to consult. She's regarded as quite knowledgeable about community resources for families in need. Thomas produced his phone. We've been documenting everything. The harassment, the interference. We have video of her watching our house at night. The social worker seemed unmoved. Mr. Miller, neighborhood disputes are common and not my concern. My focus is whether Lily's needs are being met, and frankly, based on the documentation I've received, I have serious concerns. They left the meeting with a safety plan that felt more like a threat. Make specific home modifications within 30 days or face further investigation. Modifications they've been trying to complete, but that Patricia had systematically blocked. She's trying to create a paper trail, Thomas said as they drove home. Every delay she causes becomes evidence against us. That evening, while Emma helped Lily with homework, Thomas received an email from their attorney friend, Marco. He'd agreed to review their HOA documents pro bono, searching for any leverage against Patricia's campaign. Emma, look at this, Thomas called. Marco found something in the original HOA charter. There's a clause about community approval for leadership positions. Patricia was never properly elected. She essentially appointed herself president when the previous board dissolved 5 years ago. Emma read the email, a glimmer of hope forming. So technically, she has no authority to issue these fines or make these decisions? Exactly. Thomas clicked through the attached documents. And there's more, the HOA bylaws expired 3 years ago. They were never properly renewed. Most of the rules they're enforcing aren't actually binding. For the first time in weeks, they felt a moment of triumph. But it was short-lived. The doorbell rang just after dinner. 2 police officers stood on their porch, Patricia visible behind them, arms crossed with undisguised satisfaction. Mr. and Mrs. Miller, one officer said, we need to speak with you regarding your daughter, Lily Miller. Inside, Patricia sat primly on their couch while the officers explained the situation. A concerned citizen, Patricia, had filed a report claiming Lily was being housed in an unsafe environment. She provided documents, a CPS report, medical records Emma had never seen, school reports with alarming modifications. We need to be strategic, Thomas said, spreading documents across their kitchen table at 2 a.m. Patricia didn't build this influence overnight. She's been embedding herself in the system for years. Emma nodded, eyes red-rimmed but focused. She hadn't slept properly in days, jumping at every sound, terrified of another surprise visit from authorities. Marco said he can file an emergency injunction about the HOA violations, but that doesn't stop CPS or the police. No, but it starts establishing a pattern of Patricia abusing her authority, Thomas replied. Meanwhile, I've been looking into her history. There's something off about her foster care credentials. Emma pulled out her laptop. I've been digging too. Did you know she moved here 8 years ago from Mapleton County? She never mentions it, always acts like she's been here forever. Thomas frowned. Mapleton. Why does that sound familiar? Because 7 years ago, they had a massive scandal in their foster care system, Emma said, turning her laptop to show a news article. Children being temporarily removed from homes on flimsy pretexts, then placed with community volunteers who were given excessive authority. One volunteer in particular was described as acting like she owned the children in her care. The article doesn't name her, but the timeline matches Patricia's move here. Thomas' eyes widened. You think she left when the scandal broke? Started over here? It gets worse, Emma said, pulling up another document. I requested our HOA financial records. They're supposed to be available to all homeowners, but I had to threaten legal action to get them. Look at this expenditure. Community Youth Assistance Program. Thomas studied the numbers. That's a lot of money for a community program I've never heard of. Exactly. And it's funneled through a private LLC registered to Patricia and her husband. Emma's voice turned grim. I think she's been using HOA funds to support her placements, paying herself to take in children she helps remove from their families. Thomas sat back, stunned. That's not just unethical. That's criminal. And it explains why she targets certain families, Emma continued. Notice how the Jenkins family suddenly moved out last year. Their son had Down syndrome. The Ramirez before them, their daughter was on the autism spectrum. As dawn broke, they had compiled enough disturbing patterns to warrant deeper investigation, but not enough concrete evidence to stop Patricia immediately. They needed allies and more information. Later that morning, Emma took Lily to her therapy appointment while Thomas met with Marco. As Emma sat in the waiting room, she noticed an older woman watching her intently. After a few uncomfortable minutes, the woman approached. "You're Emma Miller, aren't you? From Sycamore Heights?" Emma tensed. "Yes. I'm Judith Larson. My granddaughter Mai lived with me in Sycamore Heights 2 years ago." The woman's eyes darted around nervously. "Mai has cerebral palsy, like your Lily." Emma's heart beat faster. "Did you leave the neighborhood?" Judith sat down, her voice dropping. "We didn't leave. We were driven out by Patricia Henderson." She clutched her purse tightly. "After my daughter died, I became May's guardian. Patricia seemed so helpful at first, bringing casseroles, offering resources. Then came the complaints, the violations, the calls to authorities questioning my ability to care for Mai." "What happened?" Emma asked, though she feared she knew. "Mai was placed in emergency care, while I supposedly made my home more accessible. With Patricia," Judith's voice cracked. 3 weeks became 3 months. May came back, different. Withdrawn. She wouldn't talk about it. We moved as soon as we could, but Mai still has nightmares." Emma felt sick. "Did you report her?" "To whom?" "Patricia has friends everywhere. The school board, city council, social services. Everyone thought she was a saint, taking in unwanted children." Judith pressed a business card into Emma's hand. "I'm not the only one. There are others. We've been watching, waiting for someone to finally stand up to her." That afternoon, Emma and Thomas met with 3 other families who had similar experiences with Patricia. Each story followed the same pattern: a disabled child, escalating harassment, temporary removal, and eventual flight from the neighborhood. None had enough evidence to pursue legal action individually, but together, a damning picture emerged. Armed with new allies and information, Thomas contacted a friend at the local newspaper. The reporter was initially skeptical but became interested when shown the financial records and pattern of targeted harassment. Meanwhile, Emma reached out to a disability rights advocate who had successfully fought discriminatory housing practices. Emma woke to the sound of glass breaking. It was 2:17 a.m. according to the bedside clock. Thomas was already sitting upright beside her, one hand reaching for his phone. They exchanged a wordless glance before he whispered, "Check on Lily." Heart pounding, Emma slipped from bed and hurried down the hall to Lily's room. She eased the door open, relief washing over her when she saw her daughter sleeping peacefully, unaware of the disturbance. Emma moved quietly to the window, peering through the blinds to the driveway below. Patricia Henderson stood beside their car, something metallic glinting in her hand. As Emma watched in disbelief, Patricia methodically slashed another tire, then moved toward the house with purposeful strides. Emma rushed back to the bedroom. "It's Patricia. She's damaged our car, and she's coming inside." Thomas was already on the phone with emergency services. "Police are on their way, but it'll be at least 15 minutes. Too long." They both knew it. The sound of the back door handle rattling galvanized them into action. Thomas grabbed the baseball bat they'd regrettably felt necessary to keep by their bed these past weeks. Emma returned to Lily's room, locking the door behind her and pushing a dresser against it for good measure. From somewhere in the house came the sound of breaking glass, followed by the unmistakable creaking of the back door opening. "Thomas?" Patricia's voice floated through the house, unnervingly calm. "Emma, we need to talk about Lily. I've arranged everything. This doesn't have to be difficult." Emma cradled Lily, who had woken confused and frightened. "Mom, what's happening?" "Everything's okay, sweetheart," Emma whispered, straining to hear what was happening beyond the bedroom door. "Dad and I are handling it." In the hallway, Thomas confronted Patricia, who stood with eerie composure, a folder clutched in one hand. "This is breaking and entering," Patricia, Thomas said, keeping his voice steady despite the bat gripped tightly in his hands. "The police are on their way." Patricia smiled, unfazed. By the time they arrive, they'll find a concerned community member responding to a child in distress. "I've already spoken with Officer Daniels tonight. He understands the situation." She held up the folder. "Emergency custody order. Signed an hour ago by Judge Wilson, my husband's golf partner. Lily will be placed in my care while your home situation is thoroughly investigated, which, given what they'll find tonight, could take quite some time." Thomas felt a chill at the implication. "What does that mean?" Patricia's smile widened. "Let's just say I've taken the liberty of ensuring your home will be found unsuitable. The gas line might have a small leak. Or perhaps I'll discover prescription medications improperly stored. The authorities tend to believe me. I've built quite a reputation as a child advocate." From Lily's room, Emma had been recording everything on her phone. Each damning word captured crystal clear as Patricia revealed her true intentions. "This isn't about the neighborhood or regulations," Thomas said, buying time. "Why are you really doing this?" Patricia's composed facade cracked slightly. "You people don't deserve her. None of you do. These special children need proper guidance, proper communities. not parents who parade them around demanding the world change to accommodate them. She stepped closer, voice dropping to a fervent whisper. I provide what they actually need: structure, discipline, protection from a world that will only disappoint them. I shield them from false hopes. You're talking about my daughter like she's your property, Thomas said, disgust evident in his voice. Patricia's eyes flashed. She doesn't belong to you. Biology is an accident. True belonging is cultivated through proper guidance. The sound of sirens in the distance broke the standoff. Patricia's expression shifted from zealotry to calculated calm in an instant. They'll believe me, you know. They always do. One phone call from me and your daughter's life is transformed. It's happened before, 7 times to be exact. What Patricia didn't know was that Emma hadn't just been recording. She'd been texting Elaine, who had immediately called her contact at the district attorney's office, the same office that had been quietly investigating Patricia's activities based on the evidence they gathered. When the police arrived, they found a very different scene than Patricia had planned. Emma emerged from Lily's room with damning audio evidence of Patricia's break-in and threats. Thomas presented the financial records showing Patricia's misuse of HOA funds. And most surprisingly to Patricia, the officers were accompanied by a representative from the DA's office who had been waiting for exactly this kind of incident to move forward with charges.